And
I feel like I'm like 2 feet behind you.
Because you are.
I don't like it. My
Okay. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you, everybody that is joining us on Zoom this evening. Tonight is actually going to be the first time that we are going to be providing a live stream for this as well. So the way this is going to work is that if you are with us on Zoom tonight, then we will be setting up practice groups according to skill level. If you've been coming for a while, here you go. Johnny's going to be admitting people in as we pop up in Zoom. If you are on the YouTube live stream, I actually included a Zoom link on that live stream. So if you'd like to join us on Zoom tonight, go ahead and use that link, and we'll go ahead and admit you in. And let us know what skill level you would like to be put at. This week we had put together a theme for feelings and emotions in ASL. So we provided some resources, and you can feel free to let us know if you had some time to dig into that a little bit, and if you found that useful. But anyways, if you're here with us on Zoom, we'll be creating breakout rooms, and each breakout room will be according to one of 4 different skill levels. We'll have some people that are brand new to the language, those that are considered beginners, those that are intermediates, and those that are advanced, or pretty much near fluent. And so you can just go ahead and let us know what skill level you currently are at, and we can go ahead and accommodate you and put you into a great breakout room of about 3, maybe 4 people. And you can have about a half hour to go ahead and practice with each other, voices off and everything like that. And after that, we will be all coming back together, and we will be doing a quick little class about how you can learn sign language or learn ASL faster. And I think that's kind of the main goal for a lot of us, is that we just want to become fluent, or at least conversate, or be able to have a nice conversation in sign language. So we'll be going over a few simple strategies that you can use, and throughout the live stream, and as well, we're going to be interpreting for each other, just in case we'll be having those.
There's a question. Somebody's asking, what time does it start at, the Zoom one? People think they missed it. The Zoom is happening right now. This is just the live feed if you didn't want to be in the Zoom meeting. But the Zoom is happening right now. He's going to add the link.
You know what I think it is? I think they're talking about the YouTube. I don't know if you could see my phone because it's bright, but the YouTube one didn't load on my phone. It says the live event will begin in a few minutes, and it hasn't come on. So I don't know if it's like that for everybody. I see you on Zoom on my laptop, but on the phone with YouTube, it's not loading.
Yeah, there usually is a pretty decent delay between what you'll see in real time versus what you'll see on the live stream. In our experience, it's about a 15-second delay, so we should be appearing on YouTube. I actually have it pulled up on my computer, and it looks like the delay is about 30 seconds this evening. So if you're on YouTube, just go ahead and expect that you will, the feed that you'll be seeing is a little delayed. So don't worry about it. We'll go ahead and accommodate that going forward. And again, if you would like to go ahead and hop on Zoom really quick, we can go ahead and find you a breakout room so you can get some practice in. And again, that's going to be for about 30 minutes. So what we'll be doing for those that are on the live stream this evening is that Johnny's going to be talking a little bit about interpreting, particularly how bias might affect your interpreting. So if you would like to be in the practice session, go ahead and join us on Zoom. If you're more interested in just go ahead and observing the interpreting and also how to learn sign language a bit faster, you can go ahead and hang out with us over on YouTube as well. Okay, so as I do that, it usually takes us about 5 to 10 minutes to go ahead and set up the breakout rooms. So if you're on Zoom, what you can do to help speed up that process a little bit is at the end of your name, you can rename yourself and add what level you would like to be put with. New, beginner, intermediate, or advanced. And that'll help us create these breakout rooms as quickly as we can. You get
Hey, Chris?
Yes.
I'm going back home, okay? I'm going to intermediate.
Okay, you got it.
But I'll step out again.
I'm intermediate, Chris.
Okay. Go ahead and let us know in the chat window, and I'll go ahead and make that adjustments on my end. In the meantime, feel free to ask us any questions. Again, it will take about 5 to 10 minutes to create the various breakout rooms. So whether you're here on Zoom or you're with us on the live stream, go ahead and feel free to ask some questions, and Johnny will be more than happy to answer them for you.
Somebody has a TV on in the background that's interfering.
Yes, I'll be muting your microphones right now. Mute.
Okay.
Oh man, we have a lot of people joining us tonight.
Well, because, well, you guys know that I'll just like, ugh. Yeah. So tonight with my group and on the YouTube live, we're just gonna be talking about like different things with interpreters. You know, a lot of times what happens, you know, police deal with it, doctors deal with it, therapists deal with it, bias, and you're like, how does an interpreter deal with it? We do, and how you handle it is very important, because things happen, and things, you know, and this is from personal experience. You know, I've had this happen to me where something is going on and it involves two different people, and I'm doing two different things, but I know what's going on, and so it puts you kind of in a wonky spot where you're like, interesting, truth, lies, truth, who knows? So you as a person, just like a therapist, a police officer, you know, you have to remain biased and like neutral and just like do your job. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and how to handle those situations.
I did see a question over here. Sorry. Abby was asking, I'm wanting to interpret for my church. How should I go about that?
So, okay, that's a really good question. I don't know if you have any experience with interpreting. If you've ever seen people interpret in the past, how to express Zoom in ASL. Okay. So when it comes to interpreting for your church, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to learn the vocabulary specific to what you're going to be doing. So there's a lot of religious signs that you're going to want to like look up and find, the basic ones, church, God, things like that. If you know ahead of time what they're going to do, what they're going to talk about, what the subject's going to be about, the theme for that particular sermon, I would get that information so you can see it ahead of time. Same thing with the music. I mean, I've talked about this a few times. I know a lot of you know, music's a beast. You need to let people in. Music's a beast when it comes to interpreting, because music is art, and you can't just interpret like you would a sermon. Music is displaying feelings and ideas and thoughts and beliefs, and so interpreting music is a little different. But if you can get that information ahead of time, and if you can get the song lyrics, or if you know the song and really think about it, the sermon or whatever is going to be presented, if you can get some cliff notes, or even if you can just talk ahead of time to whoever's going to give it and be like, can you give me a brief rundown of what you're going to talk about next week or whatever, that's going to really help you kind of think about it and be like, okay, Jolie, she's like, here comes the grenade video again. Yeah, so for anybody who's been in my interpreting group, I've showed that video like twice when it comes to interpreting music. She's my favorite. I love her. But yeah, so you're going to want to get that information ahead of time, the best as you can. And that's going to really help you. And then also, too, you need to admit people. Also, too, you need to just kind of look up information, like I said, vocabulary. And it's out there. Sometimes it's kind of hard to find. But one of the biggest things I stress is when it comes to interpreting for church and finding signs, everybody's different. Everybody's church beliefs, and so signs might be different. There's the obvious one, you know, is God, and that's pretty much universal. Prayer is universal. I've seen Bible done two ways: Jesus book and Bible with a B. I've seen two different ways. There is no one right way. That's kind of one of the biggest things I stress with people. So don't like stress out like, oh my God, I found it this way and I found it this way. It's what matches you and matches your area. If you know the deaf at your church, ask them. They're going to be a really good resource for you because you're interpreting it for them, not for you. It's for them. So if there's a sign that they understand better, get it from them.
One thing that helped me at my church, Johnny, is that we have a special service for about 40 developmentally disabled people, some of whom are deaf, and so nobody else wants to interpret for them, and the material's a little bit easier, and so they're very happy to have me do the music and work with people there. So it's a nice way to start out.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Oh, I have somebody who asked, why do you love being an interpreter? Or what are the pros of being an interpreter? So I've been interpreting for about 8 years now. For me, it's the engagement. I meet so many people every day. I'm not an educational interpreter, and a lot of you who have heard me say this 1,000 times, I don't do education. I sub, but I don't do it. I don't like it. He is my company's educational interpreter. That's like his thing. Ha ha ha. Or me, I'm community is what it's called. So I do medical and everything under the sun. That's not education. For me, I love meeting new people. And when you're an interpreter, you meet all kinds of people. So a doctor's office. I mean, I don't just meet my clients. I meet doctors, nurses, therapists. I meet police officers, firefighters. I meet all kinds of people. And it's fun for me. And it's also a challenge because hold on. There's a way to say it. Whatever. Not all deaf people sign the same. So it's not like it's universal, like just they're all going to sign the same way. No, it's different. And so you might meet somebody who signs family, and then you're going to meet somebody who signs family. Oh, I know, right? It's crazy. It's true. It's crazy. You need to let somebody in. So there's variations of sign language, which we all know. We know that. So I meet all kinds of people, and I love it because it expands my vocabulary, and it's a challenge for me because maybe this is a brand new client for me who I've never met. That happens. I live in a small community, so I know almost all of my clients pretty well, but sometimes I get one that I've never seen before. So I don't know what I'm getting. I don't know what kind of language I'm getting. I don't know where they are, how they sign. Maybe they're not from here. Maybe they're from the East Coast. They sign different. They have different ways of signing. They're, more ASL, whatever. So for me, it's exciting. I'm like, whoo. And so I meet them and I'm like, okay, I got to figure you out. I got this. Okay, here we go. And the stories. One of the things I love about deaf people is they love to tell stories. They love to tell their life story and how they grew up. And so I learn all this stuff from everybody. You need to let somebody in. All this stuff from everybody. And it's so amazing. And then these doctors and nurses and stuff. And I'm like, hey, I don't just know my community. I know my community. So for me, it's exciting. And you're never bored unless you're in school. At least that's for me. I'm never bored unless I have to go sub at a school. Because then I'm like, okay, here I am all day. Unless it's a high school. All kinds of stuff happens at a high school. They're all kinds of crazy. But yeah, so for me, that's one of the things I love about being an interpreter. And my career is I'm always learning new things. I'm never stagnant. I have to challenge myself. I have to look up terms and I'm like, what was that? I'm going to look it up. Medical terms, the language is constantly changing. And as an interpreter, it's my job to stay up to date and educated on new ways of signing things. And so it's so fascinating to me, and I enjoy it. So yeah, that's a really long answer to your question, but that's why I enjoy interpreting. And one of the fun things about interpreting is you have to be very expressive, and you have to be kind of, and put on the masks of other people. So if this person's angry, you have to be angry. If this person's like, oh my God, it's too early in the morning for your chipperness, you have to be, oh my God, it's too early in the morning, chipper. Or if somebody's like monotone, those people are fun to sit there and just interpret. So for me, I'm an outgoing person, as I'm sure you can tell. I'm an extrovert by all means. So I love that. So for me, I'm like, I'm this person, I'm this person, I'm this person, I'm this person. And I just do all these different personalities, and it's enjoyable for me. I've been trying to keep an eye on the chats, but there's like 3 of them happening at the same time. And I'm like, yikes!
This was kind of a good question here. Yuletta Allen was asking, I've been wanting to learn ASL for a while, and I've struggled quite a bit. How do you recommend powering through any learning barriers?
Ooh, bummer. Yeah, I know. How's your things going?
Okay, so for everybody on Zoom, thank you for being patient with me. I do have just about all the rooms set up. We have almost 50 people with us, so it's why it's taking me a little bit longer than usual. And there are a few that don't have skill levels attached to their names. So if you are with us, Cherry and Ziena, I hope I pronounced that right. Go ahead and let us know in the chat what level you would like to be put with this evening. Looks like everybody else wants to be in the interpreting group.
Thoughts? Oh, question. Yes, overcoming it.
Overcoming your barrier.
So don't be discouraged. That's a very common thing. I've been there where you feel like you're not making the progress that you want. Sometimes we have to change how we're doing it. Maybe we've become stagnant in how we're learning. Maybe we're doing the same thing. We're watching videos and we're only watching videos, or doing it just from a book or flashcards. And sometimes we have to change it up a little bit, change up how we're going about it to help break through that barrier. And it is going to happen. I don't want you to feel like, well, I have been trying to change it up. I have been doing this. I still feel like I'm stuck. What tends to happen is in the very beginning, we make progress like this. I learn 100 signs. I learn 200 signs. And I'm like, woo! And eventually, when I know about 700 signs, and then I go into, oh, now I know 800, it's not that impressive to us. So we feel like our progress is blah. But really, we're still making progress. It's just not as obvious as it was in the past because it was new. So making sure we change it up, make sure we're doing everything, just maybe it's like coming here tonight and you're practicing with somebody new. That's going to help you. Watch different videos, reach out, practice your receptive. If you're a video person, try looking at a book. Maybe some of the books will be helpful, or vice versa. Watch some videos. I always encourage people, ASL Heart, ASL That, Signing Duo. What's the news one?
Oh, I just blanked. Daily Moth.
Thank you. I can never remember that name. Daily Moth. Expose yourself to the language, and you're going to really see yourself, boom, improve. And you're going to break through those plateaus. Just don't give up. That's my biggest thing, is to not give up. You ready to start that?
Okay, yeah, so it looks like
I'm trying to keep myself in check because I'll just ramble. So I'm trying to keep myself like,
Yeah, okay, so I think I have all the breakout rooms set up, and looks like we are at 40.
Chris and Johnny, sorry. Before we go into the rooms, I'd like to show something that I just received in the mail today.
Sure.
I ordered it. It was like $10.
Okay.
Wait a second. We're going to spotlight you.
Oh, fancy.
Okay, go ahead.
There you are.
That's the case. So it's a sign language coloring book.
Oh, that's very cool.
Oh,
And it's
cute.
by, what's her name? Brittney Castle? Brittney Castle. She's a deaf artist.
Oh,
And
very
they're
cool.
like signs. And they're very cute. And it was only $10, which
Oh
I
my
was very
God,
happy
look at that.
Okay,
I need to write that down.
I found her on Instagram.
so I'm just going to go ahead, for those that are on the live stream, they can't see the Zoom, I'm just going to go ahead and post Brittney Castle ASL coloring book on the live stream. So if anybody would like to go ahead and check her out, it's a deaf artist that does a coloring book, and really cool. So
That's cool.
be sure to go ahead and check that out.
At 58 Creativity.
At 50, it's on Instagram?
On Instagram, she's at 58 Creativity. She also makes, like, I don't know how you guys pronounce it. You say GIFs or GIFs that you can use and like send. She makes those with signs as well.
Okay, cool.
Very cool.
Bro. Like, I just thought it was really cool. And then on the back of the page, whatever the sign was, right? You are worthy.
Get that for some of my students.
I know.
On the back, it's got you worthy, and then it has like a description of how to do the sign.
How sweet! Oh my God!
She also makes like stickers, and I bought a alphabet poster from her that I put up in my classroom, and it's got like it's got an animal for each alphabet letter of the alphabet.
I love that.
I have a couple of her stickers on the back of my laptop, which because they're on the back of my laptop, I can't show you. But I did just get a couple of new ones. I can reach them here.
That's great. How exciting.
Fern.
Oh, cool.
I think it was maybe like $3 for this sticker. Maybe not even. Beauty.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah, she has some really great, and this is her business card.
I'm in trouble now.
Got some really great products.
I'm going to be going to her Instagram, and I'm going to waste all kinds of money doing that. I'm going to be like,
it's not wasting money, it's supporting deaf artists.
Money, but, you know, I'm going to be spending a lot of money doing that because that's amazing. Oh, my God. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so excited.
Okay, so let's go ahead and switch up the spotlight here. Okay, and again, looks like I have all the breakout rooms set up. And so if you are in a breakout room tonight on Zoom, we encourage you to go ahead and turn off your microphones and do whatever it takes to make that conversation happen. I know it can be really difficult if you're brand new, maybe you've just been learning for a few weeks or a few months. But this is really going to be beneficial to really kind of force yourself to use what you've been learning. And it's really the best way to learn a new language is by actually using it. And so, you know, do whatever it takes. If you don't know the sign, fingerspell it. It's great, expressive and receptive practice, and it can really help you progress in your skills. And please be patient and kind with each other. And hopefully have everybody paired up properly. Sometimes the levels aren't an exact match, and that's okay. If you find yourself with somebody that's slightly more skilled than you, use that as an opportunity to really try to kind of take yourself to the next level. And if you're paired with somebody that's a little less skilled than you, use that as an opportunity to help them out. And so we'll go ahead and do the breakout rooms, and we'll have them open for about maybe 25-30 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and come back, and we'll be talking about ways that you can learn sign language or ASL faster. And good luck, everybody that are going into the breakout rooms, and everybody on the live stream. Stay tuned, and Johnny will be talking a little bit more about interpreting. Okay, and
Bottom. It's because
I have too many rooms open.
there you
Yeah,
go.
48 people tonight.
Open all rooms.
Okay.
Bye, guys. And there they go. Okay. So, professional bias. There we go. Okay. Okay. So, do you want to reply on just questions if I don't see them?
Yeah. Do you all have any recommended? This is actually a really good one. Just before we get on the interpreting train, Abby was asking, do you all have any recommended YouTube channels for ASL? Sorry,
Sorry to interrupt you guys. I didn't get a breakout room notice.
Who?
She's intermediate. She didn't get a.
Oh, Kieran?
No, Pascal?
Oh, Pascal.
No.
I could have sworn I had you with the group.
She needs to be in group 8. No. Yeah, group 8.
Group 8?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So, recommended links, YouTube channel. So, ASL That is one of them. Signed with Heart.
Did you say room 8? Sorry.
Yeah. ASL, no.
Okay.
Sign Duo. And the Daily Moth. Those 4 we really recommend on YouTube. They're great resources. All, you know, of course, in sign language, they're really good. And on his website, aslbasics.com, he has a list of resources that you can find, like YouTube channels, movies, videos, books, anything like that, if you're curious about anything more. Okay. So, professional bias. So one of the things that can happen for us as interpreters, which a lot of people don't think of, is that sometimes we can be put in an awkward situation to where we know two sides of a story because we know maybe both parties. And you're like, I'm interpreting over here for this person, and then the next day there's another appointment that's related to the job I was on yesterday, and they're connected. And sometimes that can put us in an awkward situation, not where we would divulge information because we don't, but for us personally and internally, because one of the things we have to remain as interpreters is neutral. This is not my business. And it's hard because we're human. And so we want, sometimes we're like, I support you because, okay. Or vice versa. Sometimes, or we're like, both of you, all three of you, however it's going to go. And sometimes that happens, But what's important for us as interpreters is to remember that we remain neutral. We don't allow ourselves to get pulled into a job emotionally like that. Not my business, not my business, not my business. I'm here to bridge a communication gap. That's it. But sometimes that's hard. And so I just briefly wanted to talk about that a little bit because sometimes we do feel this emotional tie, or that's not fair, or no, there should be justice for this. As difficult as it is, we have to take a step back and know that no, we can't get involved in it. And for when you've been involved with interpreting for a while, they're called seasoned interpreters, you kind of learn that. It was something I had to learn in the beginning. I was new. I was super green. And I had to learn that. And it was hard for me. Luckily, I had an amazing team who supported me and helped me through it to know that, okay, you have to be neutral. And sometimes, it's hard. Maybe you have to remove yourself from that situation. Maybe you're not the best interpreter if you can't remain neutral, if you can't remain biased. And that's okay. There's no shame in that. We're all human. Everybody has different personalities, different feelings. Some people have no problem going, boop. I know an interpreter who is the most straight-faced interpreter you will ever meet in your life. And I can say that because I'm related to her. I love her to death. But girl has a face like you won't believe. I mean, she's amazing. So she's really good at that. You would never know. Me, in the beginning, that was hard because I don't have a poker face. If I'm mad, you know it. If I'm annoyed, you know it. If I'm happy, you know it. And it all sits right here, and I can try so hard. But it's just subtle ticks that I'll do, like, things. And I've had to work on it over the years as an interpreter because maybe you hear something and you don't like it, and you're in the middle of it, and you're like, ugh, don't make a face. You have to remain this biased, neutral. You have no opinion. And for me, it's hard as an interpreter because for me, my face is my opinion, and you'll know. If I'm like, I don't agree with that, my face shows it. I'm like, I don't like that, or like, whoa, my face shows it. So as an interpreter, we have to sometimes practice that, practice remaining neutral, practice not being stuck in the moment, but just letting it go in one ear and out the other and not getting stuck, and just keep it going. And that can be hard. But it is something for anybody who's wanting to be an interpreter. Maybe you are an interpreter right now and you're like, yeah, I struggle with that too, or oh my God, I never thought about it. It's just some little like tips and tricks that I've kind of learned along the way as an interpreter that I've noticed that I've personally I'll throw myself out there, I've struggled with, where I'm like, wow. Or like my teammates like, Johnny, your face. And I'm like, oh my God, my face. And it's just, that's where professional development comes in, and you practice some of the things that you yourself need assistance with, and you need to like modify and adjust. And for me, it's right here. I'm really good at doing this, but I'm not really good at hiding it when I need to. So over the years, I've had to work on that. Do people need to go in a group?
For those that are joining us here on Zoom, let us know if you would like to be joining into a practice group, and just let us know what skill level you would like to be put with.
You can drop it in the chat if you want. There's like 50 people in different rooms, so yeah, just let us know. So yeah, that was kind of like one of the things I just briefly kind of wanted to talk with you guys about, because it's out there. It's something that maybe we never thought about, but I've thought about it. That's one of the reasons why I love that book that I usually have around and I don't at this very moment. Oh well, it's somewhere. It's hiding. Oh, it's over there.
Oh.
But the book, which I've talked about, which all you guys know, the Encounters with the Reality, 1001 Interpreting Scenarios. I live by that book. It's like my sign language Bible. I like my interpreting Bible. I like live by it.
Yeah, I have a link to it in the live stream in the description area.
It's an amazing book, and it goes over a lot of different scenarios that, as interpreters, we face. Some of them you're going to read it and be like, that's not true. That's never happened. It's happened. Everything in that book has actually happened on a job. Not for me. I didn't write that book. But for other interpreters, now some things in that book have happened to me. And so it's just interesting for those who are like wanting to be an interpreter. Read that book. So, you guys know I will ramble, but I want to open this up for you guys. Does anybody have any questions or things that you're curious about that maybe myself I can answer, or Chris, he can answer? Remember, he's an educational interpreter. That's where he lives, thrives, studies in. That's him. And me, I'm the opposite. I'm community, medical, mental health, emergency surgeries, things like that. That's what I do. So if anybody has any questions or anything, please feel free to let us know right now. I know in the YouTube it's about like a 30-second delay, so don't worry, guys. I'll watch. But yeah, so go ahead, let us know if you guys have any questions or anything right now. I'm trying to read the 3 different chats that we have going on. I don't have Zoom. How can I practice? So there, you can look on Facebook. There could be other groups out there that you can practice with. I know there's Google Hangout. Some practice on what's that app called? I have it.
Oh, Marco Polo.
Thank you. You don't even use it. He knows the name. Marco Polo. Some people do that. They use Marco Polo as a way of connecting with different people, practicing, I would say deaf events, but unfortunately due to COVID right now, depending on what state you're in, you're either on lockdown like California or you're not. But we used to have deaf events. The company that we work for would hold these deaf events, and they're a really good opportunity to meet with different deaf. So just trying to reach out into your local community online too can be really beneficial.
I'm going to mention Mako really quick. She's mentioned this a couple times about, have you read Train Go Sorry by Leah Hager Cohen? It's a book about the deaf community in Lexington School for the Deaf.
I'm so glad you read that, because I saw it pop up and I tried to read it really quickly. What I thought that said was, I have to go. I'm reading Train Go Sorry. And so I was like, oh, okay, bye. But I'm sorry. This is why there's 2. So thank you. But no, I have never read that. Train Go Sorry. That's interesting. I'm going to have to look that up, because no, I've never read it. The boy I'm talking to, somebody,
That's here. There we go. The boy I'm talking to is the reason I am learning ASL, and he's super patient and never expresses anything but joy at the fact I'm learning for him, but I still hate asking. Any other resources? So
there's a lot of resources out there for sure. Like I said, there's the different YouTubes that channels that you can watch: Sign, Duo, ASL, that, The Daily Moth, Sign with Heart, yes. These different ones that you can do and you can watch. If you're wanting to do like this, like the group practice sessions through Zoom, we hold them every Wednesday night. Like tonight we have like about 50 people who are there. So you're paired up with, and it's never the same person. Well, okay, there's a lot of the same people that are there, but many times it's hard to get paired up with the same person unless the skill level you're in is kind of limited that night. But you meet a lot of different people and you can reach out to them, and the majority of them I don't know, all of them. Because we know almost everybody who joins in. So yeah, very supportive group. And a lot of them like having somebody to practice with. So they'll exchange information and you have like this practice buddy that you can reach out to, and which is really amazing. How many times a week do these Zoom meetings take place? So it's once a week, every Wednesday night. We are going to be opening up our, we did this twice during the summer, but we are going to be doing our 7-day, they're called 7-day challenges, which is where we host these every night for 7 days, except for the weekend. So it'll be Monday through Friday, and then the following Monday and Tuesday, because the weekends didn't work last time. But there's going to be more on that a little bit later, because I know a lot of people have been asking, when are we doing it again? And it's going to start the first week of November. And so there's going to be links and stuff dropped into that. But so it'll be like you have these practice sessions where you're paired up with a group for about 30-45 minutes, and then afterwards it's an open Q&A. Also, he has topics that he'll discuss about learning a language, grammar, classifiers, sentence structures, you name it, we're most likely going to talk about it. So yeah, those are, what time do they usually start? So these start at 5 o'clock. Okay, I'm bad at this. 5 o'clock Pacific time, because that's where I am. And then accordingly to your time zone.
6 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock Central, and then 8 o'clock Eastern.
There you go.
And if you're outside of those time zones, we're Pacific Standard Time, so you have to do the math.
Sorry.
Sometimes we have some that will join us from other countries.
It's so cool.
Like we had some join us from India, and it was
Japan.
Like 12, 14-hour difference sometimes.
Yeah. I had one person, I don't remember where he was from, but he joined with us, and he was like 3 a.m. for him. And I'm like, oh, it was so sweet. But he was like, yeah. And it's fun too, because when that happens and you meet other people from around the world, because we have people who join from all over the place, you get to learn different ways of signing. And that to me is so much fun, because ASL is not universal. It doesn't apply to every country. Each country has their own way of signing. And their own, so like in Brazil, they have Brazilian Sign Language. They have Australian Sign Language. They have German Sign Language. And so it's different. If you look it up, you're like, wow, I can't remember. Who is it? Which one is it? One of them, I can't remember. Their alphabet is done with both hands. Now, ASL is one-handed, but one of them, actually probably more than one, but the one I saw was done with both hands.
Swedish.
Are they done with both hands?
Swedish.
Sweden.
Yeah, Swedish is one of the sign languages that I think use both hands, and I believe BSL, British Sign Language, like AEIOU.
Yeah. So if you're gonna do like
some of the other sign languages have,
your name has an E in it, you're gonna point to one of these fingers, and that's the letter. Oh, mind blown. Like for me, that's like a struggle. But so that's interesting. So if you're doing that, that's gonna be very, very enlightening, and it's really cool. When are you going to upload new video? That question's for you.
I upload a new video every week.
What kind of video are you referring to, though?
That's true.
Because it's been a while since you've uploaded one of these videos.
Very true. I do have a series of fingerspelling videos that should be coming out pretty soon. I've been doing receptive ones, but it's been a couple months, particularly because things have been really busy on our end. And like school started, and we're both work full time, and we have a 2-year-old daughter, and doing these practice sessions every week. We've actually been doing these every week since April 1st, since the pandemic kind of blew up, and here we are still in the middle of a pandemic. So, but it's been really a great experience, like holding these group practice sessions and really seeing how many people have been able to take advantage of them, network, and like those that have been attending for the past 6 months, man, their progress has just boom, and it's really amazing. I'm just kind of going through
Lonnie
some
says,
of the.
Yes, British sign their alphabet with I can't say it now. Both hands. I remember watching Princess Di signing her name. That's so cool.
Very
That's just like so cool. Oh, what is the difference between
PSL and ASL? You have to explain the PSL.
Well, you mean
or
PSE?
PSE,
I think it's PSE.
Pigeon Sign Language.
So, okay. ASL. I know. I'm gonna like make this super simple. What?
Oh, nothing. There was a Lydia Mounts was asking what is your favorite sign. Mine is Soda Pop, but we can circle back to that 'cause she's asked that a couple times.
So ASL and PSE. Yeah, PSE. Stupid hand. It's the same signs. So sign language is the same. The only difference is the grammar. So for example, ASL has its own grammar structure. We'll get into that another night because that can be a lot and it's overwhelming. It can be overwhelming, but ASL has its own grammar, where PSE is sign language. It's the same signs used in ASL, but it's done in English grammar. So I'm going to attempt to do this. Give me a second to do this properly. So in ASL, I would sign store, me, go. But in PSE, I would say I'm going to the store. I go store. So it's not, none of the signs were different. Just my structure and how I put them together was different. So it's the ASL grammar versus the English grammar. I sign with it combined. When I first learned sign language, I was very strict, and I mean strict ASL. Then I moved, and my area is very PSE. Very PSE. I had to learn and adapt to be PSE, which was hard for me because when I interpreted, my clients didn't understand me because I was ASL and they weren't. So now I can bounce back and forth. I pretty much merge between the two, but that's pretty much the difference. Cost, please. You want to know how to sign cost? So it would be, if that's what you're asking, it's with an X. It's like hard to see me, I'm sorry. With an X, and it goes down your palm. Cost, charge, that's what you're going to see for that sign. Okay, I'm going to circle back to my favorite sign. Well, I think, my favorite sign is the what's up sign. I like it. It's very conversational. It's very casual. Somebody gets your attention. What's up? And I do it with the head thing too, that lift. So the what's up. And I think that for me is like my my favorite sign. You mentioned different. My daughter. There she's got like chocolate all over her face. You mentioned different skill levels for the practice session. What would be the lowest skill level recommended to join to participate? No, these are anybody. So you could be like, you could have just started learning today. Like today is my number one day. That's fine. You can join.
Right here?
Sorry.
She can be loud.
I'm joining.
Is the camera a little blurry?
It is because she got close. Okay. I just started learning today. Join. I've been learning for a year. Join. This is open to any level because the levels in the groups are so varied. You might find somebody who's also been learning today, or you might be paired with somebody who's been learning for a month, and now they're going to be able to really support you and help you, because that's one of the things we strive for in these groups is you have to be patient with your partner. One of the things I don't do, we don't tolerate, I hate being like that, but we don't tolerate it, is that negativity and that judgment towards somebody because they're not as skilled as you are, or they sign something a little differently than you, and that lack of patience. It's not accepted. So this is a very judgment-free zone when we do hold the group practice sessions, because we want this to be a very positive learning environment. Learning a language is hard, and it can be overwhelming, and we can feel discouraged, and you don't need somebody nitpicking at you about it. That's why we set these up. This is about you finding a place where you feel comfortable, where you feel safe, to be able to practice what you learn and to be able to progress in the language where you can feel free to ask any question that you want and to get an answer. My answer might be different than his, who might be different from somebody else's, but it's an answer to the best of our knowledge. No, cost of the sorry, the cost of the 7-day practice session.
Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later.
He's gonna like talk about that.
Yeah, tonight's gonna be the first night you can actually
people understand what they
pre-register for that.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I was reading. Will people understand whether you sign PSE or ASL? Yes. They will.
Yeah, they're very.
A deaf person will, like for me, when I'm interpreting and I was doing strict ASL, my clients were like, what? They eventually would have understood me, but in that moment, because what I was doing was very important, I had to adapt and modify because we didn't have time for them to go, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I don't understand. It wasn't the time for that. I had to modify and adjust myself to match that. That's my job. But if you're having a conversation with somebody, if you're just doing this casually and maybe you're more ASL, you have more time to like pause, explain, or kind of figure each other out. But no, they'll understand. Everybody will understand. It's okay. Do you guys have the issue of sometimes remembering the movements, but not the meaning? Like I learned so fast that sometimes I forget the meaning of the hand motions. So yeah, so it's like I know what it's doing, but I don't know what this sign means. What does it mean? Yeah, it happens from time to time. I had somebody. Let's see, who asked me the question? I think it was my brother-in-law asked me this sign. He was like, "What does this mean? What does this mean?" And you saw me do this earlier, but it can be confusing. Tendency. And he knew that sign, but he couldn't remember what it was. What does that mean? Tendency. So it does happen from time to time where your brain just kind of shuts down for a moment and goes, nope, I don't want to, not tonight. So it's fine. Yeah, it does happen.
What was Chris, when you start learning ASL? Summer of 2009?
Yep, summer of 2009.
11 years and some change ago.
Yikes.
Oh, is that the same question? ASL means American Sign Language, right, Chris?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. ASL can sometimes also mean Arabic Sign Language. And again, like there are other sign languages and they have different acronyms. Like just for example, like Mexican Sign Language, sometimes it's referred to as MSL and sometimes it's referred to as LSM. One is like the English Mexican Sign Language, and then the other is Lenguaje de Señas de Mexicanos, I think it is. So that's why the LSM is there. So you'll find acronyms usually mean the same thing, but sometimes they can be different.
I had somebody ask me, what have your experiences with first responders been while interpreting? So I've never had to be on site with a paramedic, but I have been on site with police officers. And it can be, the very first time for me was intimidating, mainly because I didn't know what to expect. And when I showed up, because the situation was a little tense, I had 4 cops surround me and they were like, all of it, like we were like this tight circle, and I was like, oh, air. I'm like, no, now I look back and I'm like, COVID. So I'm like, oh my God. It was me having to explain my job, why I was there, because initially it was like, whoa, who are you? On this, I was this person coming in, I had a badge, but coming in, heels, who are you? This is kind of I know, I'm the interpreter. Got it. Okay. And so it's explaining my role, my responsibilities. They've been super friendly, very supportive. They, they take down the information of what your name is, what company you work for, all that kind of thing. They'll explain the situation to you so you're prepared when you walk in, depending on what it is and why you're there. But it's been I've never had any issues with it. Like I said, I've never had any, I've never done like paramedics. I've never been called in for something like that. Not yet, you never know. But yeah, that's pretty much, it's been, I haven't had any issues with it. No, it's been pretty nice. In dealing with them. Very supportive. Is This must be the
Zechariah Torres, thank you so much. Definitely looking forward to join upcoming sessions. Are kids also learning? Welcome to join.
Yes. So we do have some younger ones who have joined with us in the past. Some pretty young, I would say, if I was to take a guess because I wasn't 100% sure, maybe 9. And then we've had some that are in their teens join. So yeah, absolutely. We do always encourage that the parents are there with them, just because this is, you're on with people that, you know, you don't know. And it's just a safety precaution, something that we kind of put out there with people, because I don't know anybody personally. Not that I'm saying anybody's bad, but it's just, as you know, we always recommend that the parents are there with them, because I can't see the breakout rooms. I can pop in every now and then, but I don't know what's going on in those rooms. Everybody who we've talked to who's been in here, they're great. They're wonderful, very supportive. But yes, absolutely, you know, your children are more than welcome to come in and practice, because we have had them in the past. There's a new comment down there. I just can't see it. Click.
Let's see here. Are any of you guys reading the chat?
Yes, I'm trying to. Why? Am I missing something?
Cube Algs.
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
there you
it
go.
says, I'm 13 and I want to be able to learn ASL, but I need to balance school and life.
Yes, so absolutely. I know it can be complicated, especially
you know
right
what time
now.
it is? I think we should probably bring everybody back.
Okay, bring them back.
It's been about a half hour.
It can be hard, especially because right now, I don't know where you are, but like in California, all of our schools are online, which is a beast all by itself. So I would just try maybe 10, 15 minutes a day, if you can, to just learn what you can. Maybe subscribing to those channels on YouTube and watch maybe 1 video a day, or maybe 2 videos a day, or something like that, and to just kind of really expose yourself to the language. Don't overwhelm yourself with it. As a younger person, believe me, you're going to pick it up a lot faster than other people, because you know you've got the brain power for it. Lucky. But of course, you know, take your time with it. Don't feel rushed and don't feel overwhelmed with it. But just do some, like I said, maybe 10, 15 minutes a day, and that's gonna be really beneficial and very helpful. Chris, I'm a teacher, so I'm interested to hear what you would be saying. What would be something helpful a teacher would do for a deaf student or the interpreter? That's you, Dave. That is so you. Okay. My turn to interpret.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here we go.
Okay, so yeah, first of all, that's incredible. Not all teachers that I've worked with are excited to learn sign language, or maybe a little intimidated by having a deaf student in their classroom. And unfortunately, some of them decide to kind of distance themselves and let the interpreter do more of the interaction. So first of all, yeah, thank you for kind of taking that stance and wanting to help your student. One of the simplest things and one of the most powerful things that you can do initially is just learn a few signs. You know, if they're a younger student, like write your name and, sit. Nice to meet you. My name is, learn the alphabet. Maybe like some commands like, hey, come here. Do you need a break? Do you need help? And just learning some simple signs can really help that relationship between student and teacher. And that can have a really powerful impact. Oh, sorry, that's incoming. But anyways, yeah, to be able to have that kind of relationship directly from teacher to student can really make a stronger impact on that student. And so initially, just learning a few signs to communicate directly to the student will have a really big impact. And then over the school year, you'll be able to continually build up that relationship, get to know the student a little bit more. And there's a huge variety of deaf students out there. And so there's a lot of individuality and a lot of variations. And over time, you'll be able to kind of pick up on what they need help with, what assistance they need, what the interpreter role is, and also listening out for.
No, I saw a question in the chat and made me turn around and I realized it was behind me in relation to his question.
Oh.
Keep going.
But yeah, just going ahead and taking the initiative to learn a little bit, and you can even ask the interpreter, hey, what's some tips you can give me? What's some things that maybe you've noticed? Because usually the interpreter is working with that student around the clock. And so being able to make sure that interpreter too is part of that educational team. So oftentimes they're with SPED, they have your classroom, they have maybe speech, they have other classrooms that they are all part of, and there's this educational team that starts to build up around the student. And be sure to include your interpreter because they might have a lot of insightful information that can assist that student in your classroom. So thank you, that was a great question.
Absolutely, and I'm just going to add like really quick, don't be afraid to utilize that interpreter. Like, don't be afraid to get close to that interpreter, and because they're going to be a really good resource for you, because like Chris said, they know a lot of what's going on with that student. They're the ones who communicate with that student on a daily basis. They see the things that frustrate them or overwhelm them. So really like making that connection. Don't be a lot of times teachers can be afraid of us because they're like, I don't really know what to do with you, and you're like another adult in my classroom, so it can be kind of challenging. But really try to establish that relationship with your interpreter. Be very supportive. When an supportive a teacher, they feel more comfortable and like, oh, okay, I'm not alone here, and you guys can be a really good asset and support for each other. Absolutely. Okay. There's like 3 chats, so I'm like, okay. Okay, that one's done. Hello. Nope. Okay. So I think we've gotten every chat question. I think.
If we missed your question earlier, whether you're on the Zoom or whether you're on the live stream, feel free to go ahead and ask that question again. Again, we're reading from a couple different sources and trying to keep up with everybody. So thank you for everybody joining us and asking us questions. That's part of the reason why we hold these sessions is to kind of share what to share what we've learned over the past 10, 11 years. And so we'll go ahead and jump right into.
Wait, before we do that, because it's going to be late for people, and people have been asking us about this for like the last like month and a half. So we are going to be holding another 7-day. Before it was called the 7-day crash course. Well, this one's going to be called the 7-day. Oh shoot.
Challenge.
Thank you. The 7-day challenge. He named it. I didn't, so I forgot. The 7-day challenge. So that is going to start. We're going to do that the first week of November, right? Yes. Okay. So super excited about that. It's going to be a lot like it's going to be a mix for those of you who remember the 30-day crash course and the 7-day challenge, the 7-day boot camp. Can't remember what they're called anymore. Whatever. You guys know. So it's going to be 7 days, not the weekend. So it'll be Monday through Friday, and then the following Monday and Tuesday, where we will have a practice session every night, and then a Q&A topic discussion afterwards, like we did before, and kind of like what we do now. So that's going to start the first week of November. Good job, baby. Thank you.
Go ahead, baby.
No, I didn't by myself.
By yourself?
So the second week of.
No, I went.
Oh,
Sorry. Okay. Now I'm confused. I lost my thought. Okay. The first week, yes. You see what happens? The first week of November, we are going to have the 7-day challenge. So that's going to be super exciting. Chris is already setting up the Facebook group for that.
There's a link in the description.
There's a link in the description for that, he just told me. So that's going to start. There is an oh, he scared me. There is an orientation for that the Friday before, which I think is the 30th.
Drink all my water.
I think it's the 30th.
Yeah, it's October 30th.
So October 30th, there's going to be an orientation for that and getting everything set up and ready. Somebody did ask us how much is it going to cost. So for the first 4 hours when it launches, people can get in for $49, and then people can get in for $49 after the first 24 hours it launches, and then after that,
it's available now.
The price will go up. So that launches. that launches tonight. Sorry, guys. It launches tonight. So super excited about that. So that price will be available for the next 24 hours.
And it will be limited.
Yeah, we had spelling classes that got pretty large, so there are going to be a limited number of seats available. But yeah, so that's going to take effect. It goes live tonight, and then orientation starts the 30th, and then that first week of November kicks off the 7-day challenge. And then we decided we will be holding one once a month. So there will be one in December, January, and so on. Because people
Will you
really
be doing the 30-day, any 30-day formats again?
the 30-day ones
maybe.
probably won't be until the beginning of next year, just because we have the holidays coming up, and so that's kind of hard for people, like Thanksgiving, and then there's Christmas, and then kids are out of school, which kind of sort of are already because everybody's like distance learning. But it can be a little more challenging to do it. That's a lot of time dedication. So probably at the beginning of the year. So maybe January, possibly February is when we'll do the big one, the big 30-day crash course that we did last time, which was a lot of fun. But so if anybody has any questions, feel free to like leave them in the chat or go ahead and ask. But yeah, so that does launch, that will launch tonight. And then, so yeah, the 24-hour window. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
it's late for some people, and I know people have been asking, so I wanted to make
9
sure
o'clock for some of you on the East Coast. So if you're still with us, thank you so much. So let's go ahead and we'll talk a little bit.
Did I
forget something?
No, it's me. Go ahead.
Oh, to interpret. Yeah. Okay, so actually, should we do the picture really quick for those that are on Zoom?
Yes, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to forget. Okay, so for those who are on Zoom, we do a picture, a group picture, and then that's what you see, like if you were there for the on Instagram and stuff, where it's like, this was last week, you know, I love you sign. If you don't want to be in the picture, you can duck out. You can turn your camera off. You can be like, no. It's totally up to you guys. Here we go. Ready. And.
Okay.
Ready?
Control print screen.
1, 2, 3.
3.
You know, everybody on YouTube's like, wow. Like, that looks funny. Sorry, guys.
Different perspective.
It is a different perspective. Okay, cool. So, now, go ahead. It's your turn.
Okay.
I'm winded. I talk
Hang in
a
there.
lot. Okay.
Okay, you ready to interpret? So now we're just going to go ahead and go over some quick tips as far as how you can kind of speed up the language learning process and how you can learn ASL a little bit quicker. So tonight I'm actually going to go over a little bit about how polyglots learn a new language. And polyglots are basically those people that speak a lot of languages, and they almost do it for fun, right? Like I know one language teacher, she's fluent in 4 languages, and she's learning Swedish and ASL, and she's just like gaining languages like they're trophies, right? But a lot of it's just because they have fun. So we're going to go over a little bit about like why they're so successful at learning new languages and how we can kind of use that to help speed up the process for ourselves. And so the first aspect of that is that they immerse themselves in the language right away. And, you know, more so than just, you know, I'm going to watch a 5-minute video every week. They really dive in head first, and they expose themselves to a lot of language. And kind of parallels to how children learn languages too. And, you know, they're listening to it all day, every day. And so the more we can really expose ourselves to the language itself that we're trying to learn, and in this case, ASL or sign language, the better that we're going to be able to pick up on the grammar, better to pick up on the language and everything else. And really, in the beginning, we want to kind of saturate ourselves with a lot of input and expose ourselves to as much as the language as possible. On the other side, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves to the point where we're frustrated or we just want to quit. We want to just be able to try to find fun and engaging ways to expose ourselves to that language. And the interesting part about that, too, is that we want to expose ourselves to everyday language and kind of focus more on comprehensible input that's at our level. And if we can really tackle that high frequency language that is used every day, then we really actually don't need to learn a lot of words in order to be conversant, to be able to be pseudo-fluent. Chris Lonsdale is really has this great video, and it's a TED Talk about how you can learn and become fluent in 6 months. That mileage may vary, but one of the things he brings out is that if you learn high frequency words, you really only need to know about 1,000 words in order to become, what was it? It was like 80% fluent, I think it was. And then if you learn 3,000, it's 98% fluency. And that's really encouraging, because sometimes we feel like we need to learn like 10 or 15 or 20,000 words. But realistically, for everyday conversation, we just need to focus on those high frequency words. And if we're exposing ourselves a lot to the language, we're going to be picking up those words first.
Sorry, real quick, there's a question. Somebody's curious because they're only allowed to be on here for like another 20 more minutes.
Okay.
They're curious how long this is going to be. So how long is this going to be, because you're the one talking?
We'll try to keep it to another 20 minutes.
There you go. So yeah, about 20 more minutes, and then it'll be done. I'm 9 years old, but I'm learning sign language from Chris. Oh, we have someone who says they're 9 years old. They're learning sign language from Chris, and he thanked Chris on the YouTube chat. I'm like, oh, this is so sweet.
Yeah, a few people are.
Oh yeah, sorry.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, by the way, for this. It's so awesome. It's my first time participating in a Zoom like this. Since ASL is not a phonetic language that you can just go out and talk and immerse yourself through music and movies and stuff like that, what are some tips and tricks that you suggest we can use to immerse ourselves as much as possible through our daily routine?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And in some ways, it's harder to learn sign language or to immerse ourselves into sign language, right? Because it is a visual language, and it's not like we can just pop on a podcast or listen to some music and immerse yourselves like we could with other verbal languages. But one of the things that I found really helpful is if you can really connect with somebody that's within the deaf community. That's where we got so much of our exposure, was that we really dove in head first, and we made a lot of deaf friends, and that's where we learned our language. And we would have them over, we play games and a lot of things like that. And it's kind of hard to do in the way things are right now. But ways that you can do that during the pandemic is, videos can help a lot, but communication helps even more. And, where you're going to get the most mileage is when you're going to be communicating with others. So we encourage you to really find avenues that you can reach out, and maybe it's a Facebook group, maybe it's Marco Polo, maybe it's Zoom practice sessions, and really taking any opportunity that you can to just take the bull by the horns and go with it. And try to find ways that you enjoy. Like we mentioned, YouTube channels, and the go-to for a lot of people are like Bill Vickers and ASL that, and they're great ways to kind of systematically learn a language. But it can be tough because we can only learn in that way for so long until we kind of get bored, right? And so we want to, maybe we like watching vlogs, or maybe we want to watch stories, or maybe we want to watch movies. TV shows. Switched at Birth is a really great TV show if you've never come across it before, where there's deaf actors and actresses in it. They use sign language in every episode. They have closed captions, so if you're brand new, you can kind of read what they're signing and gain some vocabulary that way. And the more we can enjoy it, the easier it's going to be for us in the long run.
I just read, somebody says, try Deaf TV series. Deaf U is coming to Netflix next week.
Oh, yeah.
Why have I missed that? You saw it? Oh.
And can I tell them, Santiago, is that right? Okay, Starbucks usually have deaf get-togethers, deaf meets. I don't know if they're doing it right now because of the COVID, but they usually have them once a month where a whole bunch of deaf people meet and can hang out. I used to meet with them once a month before COVID happened. So if you have a Starbucks near you, you can ask them about it and see when they might start meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay. And looks like somebody eScope on the live stream is saying that there are some skits in ASL if that helps, but you really have to do some digging for them. TikTok is actually, there's like a lot of deaf creators on TikTok right now and Instagram, and there's a lot of kind of fun skits that they do, and most of them are closed captions as well. And I'm trying to remember, does anybody remember the guy with the glasses and he kind of has it taped in the middle? Really popular TikToker and Instagrammer. Anna, oh yeah, Flip. Flip side. Yeah, and so he's really funny, and he's got a lot of skits that you can kind of do. And so, like, I know some people have just a separate Instagram profile, and they follow no one but like deaf accounts, and that can really be a fun way to do that as well. So since we're going to try to keep it a little shorter tonight, I'm going to go ahead and just go one step deeper as far as besides immersion. And the second one is that we really want to utilize or use what we know, what we have.
I don't know what just happened to him. Sorry. He'll be back. I don't know what just happened.
Probably swallowed his own spit, choked on his own spit.
Oh man. Okay. I got an important email from coworker, so I was like reading that really quick. Sorry. What was he talking about? What were we talking about? You doing okay? You doing okay?
He was talking about further
How dramatic.
I'm dramatic. Okay, anyways. How to immerse yourself? That's what he was talking about? Is that what you were talking about?
Using what you know.
Oh, using what you know. Oh, yes. So that's really important.
Take the wheel.
All right, I'm taking the wheel. So that's really important, using what you know. And a lot of times what happens is we feel very underconfident, I guess is the word, not confident in ourselves, especially in the beginning, because we're like, I'm going to be talking to this deaf person. And of course, they're going to be skilled in the language, and I'm over here like beep, 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 beep. And you don't feel confident because will they understand me? Will they ignore me? Some of you have heard some of my horror stories of the first time I tried to talk to a deaf person. It can be intimidating, but it's always appreciated. So you want to use what you learn, even if it's just, I only know how to fingerspell my name and say, how are you? That's it. That's okay. That's totally fine. And that's welcomed because it shows that you're putting forth an effort. And in a language that's not widely used, the deaf population is bigger than people think. And they're secluded. And so they don't really get a chance to talk to people. So if you have an opportunity to use what you know, absolutely. Whether it's practicing with somebody that you know, practicing as, funny as it sounds, practicing with yourself in the mirror. And I say that because if you watch yourself do it, you'll catch your own mistakes. A lot of times when we're doing this, maybe we don't realize that we fumbled or that we were really sloppy in that sign. But if you watch yourself in the mirror, you're going to catch your own mistake. And you're going to be like, wow, I could have signed that a little more clear. And so practice signing to yourself in the mirror. My biggest thing I tell people is to practice finger spelling in the mirror, because that helps your receptivity. Because a lot of times people say, well, I can fingerspell, but I don't understand it. And the reason why that happens is because you're used to seeing your hand like this when you fingerspell, but you're not used to seeing it done to you. So your perspective on the hand is different. So when you see it done at you, you're like, that's a whole other language to me. I don't know what just happened. And that's not because you don't understand it. It's just you're not used to seeing it from that direction. So if you practice fingerspelling in the mirror, your mind and your eyes are going to get used to seeing that fingerspelling done in a receptive way. And that's going to help improve your receptive skills. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to use what you know. These group sessions are really beneficial for that, because you might get put with somebody who's a little more skilled than you. You might get put with somebody who's a little less skilled than you, but you both are going to learn something from each other. And that's where that patience comes in and that support. Where you're like, oh man, I don't know what's the sign. I don't remember the sign. Okay, I'm gonna finger spell it. Well, Tim knows that sign, and he's gonna be like, oh, you mean this? You're like, that. Thank you. Now he's just taught you that sign that you didn't know before. So using what you know, even in the community, doing that, because then the same thing is gonna happen. Is the deaf person is going to be very supportive and helpful. Recommendations. Hanson ASL app is a great app to practice reading for your phone. Really? Cool. Oh, okay, that's great. And see, yeah, there's stuff out there. There's links out there that do like finger spelling practice and receptivity practice. So that's
awesome. Right here, I don't know if you can tell the shine is pretty much, but you can see there's a hand there. And then like it's showing you like the signs and how you can.
Oh yeah, okay.
You're supposed to do like you're supposed to say what letter is it that they're signing. So that will be an L, and then you get it right, then it moves to the next one. That will be a C, etc., etc. And then they have different speeds, so you can just practice the finger spelling of the reading.
Nice. That's really good.
Yeah, feel free to go ahead and let us know what app that is in the comments, and then we can go ahead and add that to our resources. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for like more resources, just because it's sometimes it's hard to thing in one place, right? So like on our resources page, I've curated and got together like various sign language dictionaries, and some of them that are kind of underutilized, like if you're interpreting for any kind of like STEM classes, aslcore.org is a really great resource. If you're like interpreting for like physics or chemistry or biology, sustainable energy, any of that kind of stuff, it's a really great resource for that.
He interprets that kind of stuff all the time. Sorry, I'm reading all the different chats. Oh, where was it? Oh, I know a deaf person, but I hardly see him, and he doesn't know ASL. You're going to run into people, believe it or not, some deaf people who maybe don't have language, and they use home sign. That can be challenging to communicate with somebody because they're going to be using signs that don't actually exist because they're signs that they have made up at home. So that can sometimes happen. Or maybe this deaf person is oral. They can voice for themselves and they don't sign. I have clients like that. That's an interesting thing to do for work. When you have to do this, but you don't do this part, it throws me off every time. But that happens. So yeah, there's a variation there.
Yeah.
That's great. So I'm 17 years old and I've been doing sign language every day. That's awesome. The more you expose yourself to it, the more you're going to progress in the language. And initially you're like, it's just like, okay. So again, go away, chair. Again, I'm going to throw myself under the bus because I do it all the time. For me, I've been working out. I've been exercising and stuff, but it takes time to, develop muscle definition and tone and to, get thinner. And sign language is the same thing. It takes time. So if you do a little bit every day, eventually you're going to see this progress that you're making and you're going to be like, wow, and be really impressed with yourself. So doing a little bit every day is really important. And that's very commendable because it can be hard. And just do what you can. Maybe you can't do it every day. Maybe you can only do it a couple times a week. Hey, you know what? A couple times a week is better than nothing a week. So that's really great. Again, I'm trying to read. Oh yeah, it says yeah, he lip reads, so it's hard to communicate with him. Yeah. Is the Zoom still going? I left, but I thought it was over. The Zoom is still going. So yeah, we are still here. There's still people here. There's about 30 of us still on here for the Zoom part. I know we kind of hang out afterwards, but was there anything more you wanted?
It's a deaf goodbye.
That didn't sound good.
It's a toy that she likes to pull down.
Oh. Anything else you wanted to?
Yeah, just one more thing. And if you have time, Lydia Machova is a really great polyglot, and she has this awesome TED Talk. It's like 9 or 10 minutes long. But she kind of goes over 4 big categories as what makes polyglot successful. One of them was immersion. And the very last one was about patience. And sometimes we don't have give ourselves enough time to kind of develop that, to develop the language. And it initially, that progress is really apparent.
Ooh.
Oh.
Can you let me in? Sorry.
But yeah, in the beginning, it's really apparent, right? And like you are super excited. You are learning signs. Maybe you learn like 100 signs in a week or 2 weeks, and you just went from 0 to 100 really fast. But like 6 months later, and you're still learning 100 signs every 2 weeks. That doesn't feel like you're making that much progress, even though you still are. You have to be patient with yourself and know that as long as you are kind of getting that input, you're exposing yourself to the language, you're using what you know, and you're getting feedback, and you're having that support, and you're just kind of staying the course, and you're keeping at it, you are making that progress. And sometimes we just gotta relax our expectations of ourselves a little bit and be patient with ourselves. And this is kind of a trap for a lot of us fall into, is comparing our progress to others.
Oh boy.
And so that's something that we have to kind of be cognizant of and be careful of, because it can be really discouraging when we say, oh, that person is such a good signer, and it feels like I'm not there yet. Sometimes we're comparing our year 1 to that person's year 10. Like, oh man, that person signs so fast and so clear and knows so many signs. I'm never going to get there, or I'm not there yet. And that's discouraging, but don't worry about that so much, and you will be able to make that progress. Just be patient with yourself and keep at it.
Somebody left you a note.
This one?
Yeah. I'm like, oh.
Sir, I don't know who you are, but thank you for teaching ASL so I can finally talk to my friend who's deaf. I can't wait to surprise them.
Aw, it's so sweet.
That's awesome. And that's really been the best part of all this too, is hearing those kinds of stories. Like, just last week somebody reached out to me and said, hey, there was this girl that I was really interested in, and she's deaf, and I didn't know any sign language, and so I've been like using your videos and your resources, and now I was able to talk to her, and like we went out on a date, and like that relationship's building up, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but like that's really, it's so encouraging, and it kind of helps us stay motivated to continue to help others and to facilitate these practice sessions and really enable people to make those kinds of connections. And really, like when you boil down to it, that's what languages are about, right? They're about people. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves the reasons why we started. And like when you do hit that plateau, or you feel discouraged, you want to quit, take a moment and really remind yourself why you started in the first place. And usually most of us started learning for a really noble reason. We want to communicate with a student. We want to communicate with a family member. Maybe you are hearing parents and you just learned that your child is deaf. And that is a really powerful motivator. And sometimes we have to kind of go back and remember the reasons why we started learning in the first place, so we can continue and push past those moments of discouragement, because they will happen. Learning a language is a marathon, and if anybody's run more than a couple miles, you hit that wall eventually where you can't breathe and you're tired and you just want to quit. But sometimes we have, just looking back at and seeing the progress that we've made so far, and keeping our eye on the finish line, and what that end result's going to enable us to do can really help us keep that going.
What's the matter?
I'm just reading some of the comments.
Chris, do you have any tips for working with people who are blind and deaf?
Oh, yeah.
I fingerspell into her hand, and it's kind of tricky, but do you have any tips? Because you can't sign because she's blind.
Yeah, so what you'll want to learn is there's a couple tactile sign languages. They're asking about how to communicate with deafblind.
Oh.
And you actually have a little bit more experience with that than I do. But there are like pro tactile ASL, and then there's tactile sign languages, and both of them you're signing into the other person's hand. One is that, like, one basic one is like you're kind of drawing letters in the palm of their hand, and they can, you know, feel what letters you're drawing. A more efficient way of communicating is pro tactile ASL. And if you YouTube it, there's a few great videos that kind of go over what it is, how it's used, and why it can be really efficient for deafblind people. Basically, it's a simplified version of sign language that you sign into somebody's hand. So then they are able to be cognizant of the space that you're using. They can kind of feel the hand shapes that you're using, and it's actually a really effective way to make that communication happen when they can't read, they can't, you know, visually see the sign language and everything like that. Go ahead.
I have a couple stories about that. So, quite a few years back, me and Chris, we were out of town, and he gave a discourse in sign language. And so we're sitting there afterwards, and we're just chatting with people, new people like we didn't know. And this woman approaches me, and she says, "Hi, I have somebody here who wants to meet you." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." She was hearing, but the person she was bringing over was deaf. And I was like, "Cool, yeah, absolutely, let's go." And she said she's deaf and blind. And I went, "Oh, that's still cool. Let's go." And I thought, "Oh, how do I do it? How do I do it?" Because I had no experience with it. So she tells me, all you have to do is let her hold on to your hand. And I'm like, "Pardon?" And she goes, "Just let her hold on to your hand." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, let's do it." So she comes up to me, and she's older, and she comes up to me and she grabs onto my hand. And I'm like, "Now what?" And her friend goes, "Just sign." And I'm like, "No, that can't be right." And she's like, "No, it's okay. Just, she will do what she's going to do. Just sign." I'm like, "Oh my goodness." I'm like, "Okay." So I introduced myself, and I was like, "Okay." I said, "Hi, my name is Johnny, my sign name." And she's holding on to my hands ever so lightly, and she just feels what I'm doing, and as I'm doing everything. And she was like, "It's nice." So she wouldn't let go of my hand. She would sign one-handed, and she was like, "It's nice to meet you." And I'm like, "Oh, absolutely." And then as I would sign, she would hold onto my hand again. And it was a very interesting experience for me because I had no idea. And her friend knew I was nervous, and she was like, "Don't be nervous. It's totally fine." And I'm like, because I don't want to offend somebody. I don't want to do something wrong. You know, I had no experience with this. So it was fascinating to me. I was like, wow. And I know some interpreters, I'm friends with them. They do that professionally. I'm an interpreter, but I'm not a tactile interpreter. That's a whole other skill. And so I've watched them do it, and I'm like, wow, that is like amazing to do. I have a friend.
To clarify, Johnny, were you actually doing signs, or were you just finger spelling letters?
I was doing signs, and she was feeling my hands as I did it. I have a friend who's deaf, and he's going blind. He has tunnel vision, and as he's gotten older, it's gotten worse to now he sees this, and he's deaf. So what he does is he kind of does the same thing, but he has to hold on to my hand to find me first. So he's looking to find in this very narrow spot to find me. And then I sign pretty close to my hand, or pretty close to my face, so he can see me. So he doesn't let go, because otherwise he'll lose me and then I'm gone. And so it's interesting. There's ways of doing it, and there's ways of communicating with the deaf and blind. I've never had to do the one in the hand where you fingerspell in their hand. I've never done that, but my boss has. And so it's amazing to see that there is no limits. You can communicate with anybody, and it's just so fascinating. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's been my experience too, was with that one with the tunnel vision. And like your box, if you've been learning for a while, you're kind of familiar with, like, I'm signing loudly, I'm signing quietly, and like you have this range in this kind of invisible box that you sign in. And for him, it's like your box is right here, because his vision is just so limited. And so you have your hands really close to your face like this, and you're signing very modified. And so like the way you would communicate with, and this kind of applies to everyone, to where your communication is a little dependent, and you have to kind of change and adapt to who you're speaking with. And somebody might have clear vision and they speak really clear ASL. Some people might be more PSE. Some people might from older generations might still use signed exact English. And then you have those that are deaf blind. Some know tactile, pro-tactile. Some do fingerspelling. And so there's this huge variety within the deaf community, and it can be not to be overwhelming, but just to know that like there's a lot of beauty in that kind of variation, and to kind of open our mindset a little bit, and to know that sometimes there's many ways to sign the same thing, and sometimes that depends on who you're trying to communicate with.
Absolutely. Don't let it overwhelm you. I know it's like if you're new, you're like, oh my God, there's a lot. There's a lot. But one of the things that I tell people, and I think this is how we're going to close it tonight, one of the things I tell people when you're learning sign language, focus on what is important right now. I always tell people you have a very small circle. Why are you learning sign language? What's your reason? What's your why? Why right now? Maybe you work at a grocery store and you have a customer who comes in from time to time who's deaf. You want to communicate with them. You want to help them. So right now, the reason that you're learning sign language is to communicate with that person in that situation. So focus on the signs you need for that situation. What would that look like? First off, maybe introducing yourself. Hi, how are you? The basics. Then how do you sign numbers to tell them how much money they owe, how much it costs, where to find something. So maybe food or clothing signs. Learn the signs for your why for that specific situation. That's going to be less overwhelming for you. Then once you've mastered that, then maybe branch out a little bit more. Okay, now if I meet somebody in the community, what would I need to know? What other signs can I add to my vocabulary? And you're going to continue to branch it out. If you're a teacher and you're learning sign language because you have a deaf student in your class, you're going to focus on signs that are more appropriate for education. Homework, principal, lunch, recess, chair, sit, table, write. So you don't have to worry about learning all this other stuff that's irrelevant for your current situation as to why you're learning sign language. So if you're like, you know what, this is really overwhelming, I'm a little concerned, I'm a little nervous, focus on why you're learning it and focus on what you need to learn for that situation. It becomes less intimidating, and then you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. And it kind of makes you feel a little more calm, and then you can expand, 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 and expand as you keep learning the language. That's all I'm going to say on that.
I have just one more thing. Last week, somebody asked about hand exercises for signers. And in fact, one of my friends at age 40 became an interpreter, interpreted for about 8 years and had to quit because she got such wrist and shoulder problems. And frankly, this week I was feeling a little discouraged that I'm not picking things up that fast. But then I turned that around and thought, what do I have to offer this ASL group? And one thing I would have to offer you is that, I've done quite a bit of Qigong and martial arts classes in myofascial massage and connective tissue. And I have quite a few hand exercises and wrist exercises. And I would be happy to either do it like sometime, like now after a session, or I would also be happy to, just have people individually Zoom. And I think in 10 or 15 minutes, I could show different, like in the martial arts, hands are very important. And so, I know exercise for martial arts, and then the new thing is fascia and connective tissue of how to do that. But if you guys would ever be interested in me doing it,
that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
People just wanted. I'm not very good at Zooming, but this is an email thing that I could do an individual session.
There you go.
There we go.
No, it's still on us.
No, it's both.
Oh.
It's a new feature Zoom has now. You can pin 2 people at once,
Sweet.
specifically for interpreters.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And you know what? It's very important, especially when if you sign a lot, if you're an interpreter, having those stretches and knowing, because there's times where I'll be interpreting and oh my gosh, I'm like, ooh, trying to shake it out as I'm working. I'm like, oh my God. And yeah, and I feel it mainly like right here. My supervisor had surgery last year for that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be next. He feels it up here in his shoulders because he's an interpreter. He signs like super tight. So yeah, so no, that would be really great. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think that's it for the night.
Really quick, somebody was asking, how do you practice by yourself?
Oh, I know.
Go ahead, babe.
When you so practicing by yourself can be a little hard, of course, but one of the things I tell people to do is, if you're driving in the car and you're at a stoplight and you see a sign, fingerspell that sign. Fingerspell, okay, there's a license plate, fingerspell whatever you see, and that's going to practice in this part of it. And then what I also like to do is, if I'm doing the dishes or I'm cleaning the house or I'm just doing whatever and I have the radio playing, or I have like a TV show if I'm watching Friends or something and they're talking, try signing what they're saying. Not so much interpreting, but like, oh, if I said that, you know, that phrase or whatever, I'm going to sign that. And then that you're practicing using those signs, and you're practicing with yourself. Your receptive comes with you watching sign language videos, TV shows, movies, things like that on YouTube, Instagram. But that's what I would do.
Yeah, and for myself, what I would do is like specifically if I had to give like any kind of presentations or anything like that in sign language, I would record myself. I'd set up a camera on a tripod, and like I would go through my outline, and I would go ahead and sign through it. And so one, that really helped me kind of go back and like, ooh, you know what, my facial expression wasn't right, or you know, that sign wasn't clear enough, and it really helped me kind of take the material that I was working with and really adapt it and change it and clarify it and make that message a lot clearer. And so that's something that I found really useful. And today, like, you know, back in 2009, there really wasn't like phones or cameras and phones at the time. But we have these smartphones now. Yeah, I think we had flip phones.
I had a flip phone. I had the Crazer. It was red.
Yeah.
Dating myself.
Yeah, well, if you want to date yourself, my first phone was a Nokia, those little pebbles. And now I was a teenager by then. I was 14. Don't look at me like that.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah, let us know what your first phone was. Anyways, yeah, so like you have these smartphones now, and so like record yourself. Maybe if you learned 5 new signs today, record yourself signing those to a camera and watch yourself sign them. Were you clear? Is there anything that you could change? And also, you can go back to them. You can almost create like this digital journal now, where if you're recording yourself like every 5, recording yourself. Hey, these are the 5 signs I learned today. These are the 5 signs I learned today, and kind of catalog that and go back, and it's this digital like living notebook that you can kind of go back and review. And if you've familiar with spaced repetition, you can use that, and you can really help yourself memorize vocabulary that way.
Okay, it's getting late.
Yeah, very, very late, and so we'll go ahead and wrap things up. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. If you were with us on Zoom, I really hope you enjoyed your group session. And we encourage you to really take advantage of many opportunities as possible to really use what you've been learning and everything like that. And we'll be doing this again next week. And so if you would like to, actually, we need to pick out a theme for next week.
Oh, to talk about, okay.
Yeah, so like this week it was feelings and emotions, and we provided some resources from like ASL Meredith, Sign Duo, a few others. But yeah, just let us know what if you found that if you first of all like if you got a hold of those resources, and if so, like did you find them useful in preparing for tonight? And so if that is the case, then we'll go ahead and try to kind of curate some resources and themes to keep these practice sessions going. If you have any questions about the 7-day challenge that's coming up in November, feel free to contact me. Let me see if I can throw up my email address real quick. It's chris@aslbasics.com, and I'm pretty good at responding back to your emails pretty quickly. So go ahead and feel free to send me an email. I'm also on social media at ASL Basics. And again, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we will see you next week.